crack this case here. Find out. So there's some star bits in there. We're going to find out which ones they are. And it looks like probably a T27. Now, from what I could find online, this Stihl trimmer is, I think, from the 80s. So it's not very new, but probably runs better than a lot of the stuff that's on the market today. Let me grab a tool over here. Before I go any further, I'm going to throw some gloves on. I got a fan running because it is currently, well, it's 82 degrees in here. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but all right, so go ahead and crack this case open. So this thing in the back, it's the strangest choke run that I've ever seen. It's just like a dial. We're going to undo the screw here, and hopefully this should open all this up. The air filter doesn't look too bad. All right. I'm assuming there's 2 more bolts here. Two more here. Now the bulb on this is cracked, so it probably definitely has some issues. I'm gonna have to get a really long extension to get in there. Old school champion plug. All right, let's see if I can get in there with something longer. We need something extremely long to get back into this. Let's put another extension on. I can get it this way. Just like it. All right, we got the case apart. All right, so I'm gonna slowly try to pull off this carburetor. I don't really want to damage this gasket because I don't know if you can find other ones. All right, get some wires here. I'm going to gently pull off these fuel lines. All right, here's what the carburetor looks like. Looks like almost every single small engine's carburetor you'll pull off any one of these small 2-stroke engines. I don't think they've changed the design in years. So we just got to dig in this a little bit and see what's going on. There's a couple of gaskets on this, which I'm going to try to peel off very gently. So first we're going to unscrew these ones. Actually, let me get you guys in here just to get a little bit of better visual on this. Like I said, this is the very first episode, and I apologize for my tripod being in the frame, which I have to figure out how to do that later. So anyways, this is your carburetor. Right now we're going to take this off, get a look at the insides here. Since it's only running on choke, most likely it's, you know, something's not working correctly in here. Take this off. So this diaphragm actually feels really good, but I do want to get it off because there is a passage underneath this that could get clogged. And we're going to take a look at that. Let me pop this up here. And that's exactly what I didn't want to have happen. See how this is pumping fuel out? Or did pump fuel out? But there's a passage in there that could potentially be clogged. I don't have another diaphragm. Actually, there's a test that I want to do to see if it's actually pumping. So we're going to take this top one off. So we're going to get a little bit of fuel. All right, so in most of these carburetors, this screen right here is what gets clogged and has issues. So there's a test we can do, and I'm going to use a little bit of carb cleaning to do it, so I'll show you that. So I can't get that diaphragm off the bottom. I'm not going to mess with it. It still feels pretty pliable, and I don't want to ruin it. But what we can do here, this is just a little bit of brake parts cleaner, carb cleaner. You can use whatever you want. But up here in this screen here, you're going to pour a little bit of that. You can use gasoline, whatever you want to use. Now there's a needle and seat under here. Let's see if I can get this close so you can take a look. There's a needle and seat under here, and when you press on this, this should drain quickly. So that one drained quickly. There's no issues with that. So we shouldn't have any issues with this getting fuel. That's all cleaned out. And the carb looks pretty clean. I don't see any issues here. Like I said, I don't want to mess with this too much. So we're going to throw these screws back in. And then we can check small screen. Sometimes, getting close here, see if it'll actually focus. So there's these little tabs here. Sometimes you could have issues with these tabs as well. But this all looks to be pretty decent. I don't see any issues with that. So we're going to keep that on there. All right, let's throw these screws back in. All right. So like I said, everything looks good with the carburetor. Look at this one here. I don't see anything. They're still pretty pliable. Now the one thing that is cracked that I do have to replace here, as you can see, that this bulb bulb is broken up. Usually I can just pop this out and replace the bulb. I think I have a spare, so let's check. All right, so last we had left off, we were talking about this primer bulb. Now, I didn't have any, so I had to order some, and they didn't come for a few days. So here's what the primer bulb looks like. So this was actually in here, like this. You can split these apart and just replace the actual bulb itself. These will get a little chewed up. But for almost the same price, you can just order a brand new one. So we're going to do that. So if you look at these on the back of them, there's going to be two sides. There's going to be a short and a long. Just like that. So don't get those mixed up when you do take this apart, because then we'll have to go back in the same order for one to pump to the carburetor and one to go feed back to the tank. We're just going to pop that back on there. And then place it right back in here. Hopefully now this hose fits back in the tank. There we go. All right, we got it on. So what we're going to do now is get all this buttoned up and back together. Get this in here. Where did that gasket go? Oh, here it is. All right, let's get our carburetor hooked back up. Check, make sure that your throttle works. Put the gas line back in. Hey, kitty. And then the line going to primer bulb. Now sometimes, so we looked at the carburetor and the carburetor looked pretty clean. It was flowing fuel through. Another issue that could have been from this not running properly is the primer bulb being cracked like that can introduce air into the system or not allow fuel to flow properly, and we can have issues there. So let's prime this. That works. So, all right, let's get this all buttoned back up. Here. There, back on. It looks good. Choke, cover, boom. That's run, choke, and choke run. All right, let's set you up and see if we can get this thing started. All right, so it's all back together. We're going to see if we can get this started. All right, it's already primed. I'm going to set the choke on. It's on run, so let's see. Well, turn the choke off. I'll idle for a few minutes. A few seconds. to just switch it back to run. I forgot to do that. Smoking pretty good. Yeah, that's it. Everything's running good. All right, now the only other thing that you could do with this carburetor, you can't really get to it here. You actually have to take this off. There's inside here, there's a high-low. So if you're at low speeds and you come off a throttle, and it starts bogging, then you turn the low speed up to give it a little bit more gas to prevent that bogging. And then there's usually an L and an H. The H is for high. So say you're going along, you have this all the way full throttle and you start going through some grass or weeds or whatever, and it starts bogging down, you can also adjust that to not bog down. But that's it. And I appreciate you guys for watching. I'm going to have videos probably try to do once a week. I'm still new to videoing, and this is going to be the first video that I edit also, so be interested to learn that. I'm still a little wary of being in front of a camera, so I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you in the next video.